Hey everyone, I'm John from Fast Films, and today we're going to take a look at the 2021 New Zealand psychological thriller film called Coming Home in the Dark. The movie opens showing a family of four on a road trip together. Parents Jill and Alan and children Jordan and Micah. As the parents chit-chat and laugh, the children argue about music in the back seats. The family makes a stop at the petrol pump and buys some snacks, then heads off to the mountains. While hiking, one of the boys, Micah, sees two men at the top of the hill. He stops and curiously observes them until they disappear. After reaching a place to stop and rest for a while, the family takes a group photo and sits down laughing and talking together. Suddenly, Jill freezes after seeing something. Two men approach from the direction she's looking and casually starts going through the family stuff. Intimidated by their appearance, the family chooses to say nothing and sit frozen. One of the men introduces himself as Mandrake and his partner as Tubbs. He asks the family to introduce themselves. They hesitantly comply and tell them their names. Mandrake then takes out a gun and remarks that nobody knows where the family is, or if they're still alive, hinting he can easily get away with murder by burying the secret in the deserted place. Jill asks the men what they want. Mandrake says he saw their car down the road. Jill hastily throws her keys to them, wanting to get rid of them, but the men don't leave at that. Mandrake orders everyone to empty their pockets. Once they're done, the men pick up all the useful things. They then tell the family to lie down on their fronts and not move until told so. Mandrake readies his gun after this. Scared, Micah calls to his father. Amused by the name used by Micah, Hoagie, Mandrake asks Alan his name. Taking a look at his ID, he learns that Alan's last name is Hoganrod. Mandrake says it sounds familiar and starts wondering where he heard it. Just then, Tubbs tells Mandrake that someone is watching. Mandrake tells the family to stand up quickly and pretend that all is fine. He makes them all wave at a van on the other side. Taking the signal that all is well, the man in the van waves back and drives away. Mandrake tells the family that looking back at this moment, they'll wish they had done something. Suddenly, the men shoot both the children. Jill protests, earning herself a beating that knocks her unconscious. Alan is pinned to the ground and his arm is broken by Tubbs. At night, the men put Alan and Jill in the car. Mandrake tells Tubbs to sit in the back seat and keep an eye on Alan. Alan asks the men where they're taking them. As a response, Mandrake says they're taking him home. During the ride, Mandrake asks Alan about his profession as a teacher. Alan says he didn't tell Mandrake that he was a teacher. Mandrake says he must have told him at some point. Jill regains her consciousness by then and asks where the children are. It all comes back to her and she starts bawling. Mandrake remarks that they at least didn't have to suffer, but Jill keeps screaming and crying. After some time, Mandrake and Tubbs start playing I Spy. After taking their turns, Mandrake tells Jill to play. However, Jill doesn't respond. Worried that the men might hurt her for not responding, Alan plays instead. Tubbs pulls a CD from his jacket and hands it to Mandrake. Mandrake refuses the CD and starts telling the people the story of how tragic it was that the last car they took only had one CD in it. Seeing how Mandrake refused the CD Tubbs gave, Alan asks Tubbs if he always does as told. He's only given cold silence as a response. Mandrake starts talking to Jill, asking her about her profession. Still not over the death of her children, Jill refuses to say a word to Mandrake. Alan hastily tells Mandrake what Jill does, telling him about her profession, how she's a teacher, and they both work at the same school. Mandrake asks Alan where he worked before his current school. Alan names a previous college he worked at. Mandrake asks again where he worked before that. Every time Alan answers, Mandrake only asks where he worked before that. Alan soon correctly guesses that both the men were once enrolled at Heckaway Point, a group home for troubled boys. When Mandrake asks more about Alan's job at Heckaway Point, Alan says he never saw the offense the boys faced there. They actually wanted to help the boys. Mandrake asks Tubbs what help he got there. Tubbs only stares back in a way that loudly said that place was never meant to help. Jill bursts out, saying her husband never takes advantage of any kids. Mandrake only laughs at that. After a while, they make a stop at a gas station. Alan asks to use the restroom. Mandrake is hesitant to let him go at first, but then lets him out while keeping a close watch. In the car, Jill sympathizes with Tubbs, telling him that no one ever deserved to be in a hell place like Hackaway. In the restroom, Alan pulls a door handle and carves a message into the toilet seat. Jill asks Tubbs where they left the boys. Tubbs' silence angers her and she rudely asks again. Tubbs jerks forward but only puts a CD into the player and moves back. Coming out of the restroom, Alan tells a station attendant that he's out of toilet paper. Mandrake becomes suspicious. He takes Alan out of the car and drives away. Mandrake stops the car at a distance and returns. Alan watches horrified as the station attendant comes outside, all out of breath. After him comes Mandrake. He strangles him and then finishes him off by bludgeoning him with a fire extinguisher. While Mandrake is at this, Alan pins Tubbs to the side of the car and tells Jill to run. Jill makes a run for it. Tubbs is pushed out of the car by Alan's weight, and he immediately starts chasing after Jill. Alan grabs a cell phone and begins to call for help, but Mandrake returns and pulls the cell phone from his grasp. While Jill is running, Tubbs catches up to her and grabs her. Mandrake stops the car beside them, and she is once again put back in the car. Mandrake gives Alan an old badge and tells him to pin it on. Alan looks at it. Jill again says that Alan was never one of the offenders at Hackaway. Alan begs the men to let Jill go, saying it's him they were looking for. Mandrake reveals that they were never looking for him. His family was just another victim of theirs. Him, being Alan Hoganrad, turned out to be just a happy coincidence. After driving to a deserted area, Mandrake pulls Jill out of the car and makes her kneel, holding a gun to her head. Alan tries to stop Mandrake, but he's pinned to the car's hood by Tubbs. Alan asks Mandrake what he wants. Mandrake remarks that it's for Alan to figure out. Mandrake then reloads the gun. Alan blurts out that he did see the offense. Mandrake asks him to explain what he saw. Alan reveals he saw what the housemaster called the locker treatment. They would beat the boys with belts and lock them in cells. Mandrake grabs Jill by the jaw and makes her look at Alan, telling Alan to tell her. Alan says there was also a bodyguard who would go to the boys' bedrooms at night. This enrages Mandrake. He tells Alan he didn't want to hear about a child offender. He tells him to talk about the things he did. Alan says he saw the housemasters hitting children with clipboards while they were online, which was the name of the roll call process. But Alan promises he never had anything to do with it. Mandrake looks at Alan and asks if he's sure. Alan freezes. He suddenly remembers that once when they were outstaffed, the housemasters made Alan do it. Alan relays a story of a young boy who tattooed a swastika on his arm. A housemaster painfully and forcibly scrubbed it from the skin with a wire brush, which traumatized the rest of the students. Alan sobs, saying he never reported it out of being a coward. Jill is shaking by his admittance. Mandrake walks to Alan and says it was a nylon brush, not a wire brush. He remarks it still did the job. It only took 3 times longer. We're then shown a glimpse of a boy carving something into a stone at Hackaway. Back in the car, Jill is now sitting, traumatized by the news of the cruelty her husband allowed towards young boys. Alan tries to hold her hand, but she rebuffs his attempt. With a heavy heart, Jill reveals she always knew there was something. Alan's eyes always said it. She just wishes he had told her. With this, Jill opens the car door and jumps out of it. Mandrake stops the car. Alan struggles to keep the men from going after her. Tubbs holds Alan back while Mandrake slowly advances towards Jill, who's weakly laying on the road. Seeing a river under the overpass, Jill chooses to jump into it rather than return to her abductors, leaving Alan to cry, thinking the fall might have killed her. During the journey ahead, the car's tire is slashed. With Alan in the car, with his hands tied, the men begin to work on the car. Alan suddenly kicks the car door into Tubbs' face, breaking his nose, and makes a run for it. Mandrake chases Alan. He shoots at him, causing him to fall. Alan unties his hands and hastily makes his way to the twinkling city lights ahead. Alan finds and approaches a car in an open ground and asks the teens inside for help. Thinking it's a prank, they tell Alan to leave them alone. Soon Mandrake comes with a gun. The teens freeze after seeing him and get inside the car. One of the teens asks Mandrake what he wants. Mandrake says he's here for justice. He says Alan is a child offender and he has come to catch him. Alan begs them not to listen and just drive, but the teen stops the car engine. They pull Alan from the car and throw him at Mandrake's feet. Mandrake thanks the teens and then kills them all in a blink. However, one of them escapes. Thus, Alan is once again left at the mercy of the men. Tubbs comes to get a drink. Alan remarks he must like cells because though he is not locked up, Tubbs is still on a leash controlled by Mandrake. Tubbs crumples his can and walks away. The men again get inside the car and start driving. Mandrake and Tubbs share a look as the sign of Hackaway Point passes. After reaching the building, which has now been abandoned, Mandrake gets out. He tells Tubbs to get Alan out as well. However, Tubbs doesn't move. Mandrake tells him to suit himself and pulls Alan out himself. He pulls up the shutter of the building and tells Alan to get inside. Alan walks inside as told. He's taken to another room through the building where we see the same stone which was carved by a boy at the house in the past. Mandrake tells Alan they only took the boys in to spit them out at 17 with nowhere to go. Alan says it was wrong of him to sit back like a coward and do nothing. He reveals that him being a coward isn't the only thing to blame though. He thought Mandrake deserved the scrubbing punishment for giving himself the tattoo. Mandrake goes down to Alan's level and says that it wasn't him whose arm got scrubbed, it was just another kid. This is followed by a glimpse of the boy crying at the past Hackaway. Mandrake then shoots Alan. Thinking he's dead, Mandrake turns him over with his foot, but Alan springs up with a rock in his hand and starts violently bashing Mandrake's head with it. He then begins to crawl away. Mandrake sits back up weakly and begins shooting at Alan, not being able to maintain a good aim because of weakness. Tubbs approaches Mandrake and takes the gun from him. Mandrake keeps swearing at Alan, saying he's cruel for everything he allowed. Instead of shooting Alan, Tubbs kills Mandrake. He then walks over to Alan, who looks up at him with fear in his eyes. Tubbs remarks he hates this place, and simply walks away after placing the gun by the dead Mandrake. Thanks for watching, guys.